Melissa, go for it.
Sounds good. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to talk a little bit about the accounting department. We'll kind of lay out what's it currently like on campus, talk a little bit about the past and our experiences and what we hope for in the future. And before we go around and introduce everyone, I just want to say happy birthday, accounting department. We have 50 years on campus, which I think is pretty exciting, but I'm also an accounting nerd. So, but wanted to say that because I think that's a great milestone and hopefully it'll be around for another 50 years. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, so Melissa Clausen, I graduated in 2005 with a public accounting major and a leadership certificate minor, or leadership studies minor. Ended up going to Ohio State for my master's in accounting and went to Ernst & Young, one of the big four, for 11 years, always in their risk advisory services, doing more internal audit work. And now I am at the Wendy's company as their chief audit executive, heading up the internal audit group. So with that, I will go around and I'll start with Professor Johnson. Would you like to go ahead and give us a little bit of info about yourself?
Sure. As I'm looking around the Zoom Brady Bunch boxes or Hollywood Squares boxes, whatever you want to use, I see a lot of alums, and I really thank you for tuning in. But I also see some folks who I don't know, alumni from maybe many years ago before I arrived in 1989. Grace Johnson. I grew up in Florida on the West Coast and started in Marietta College in 1989. So I kind of consider Marietta my hometown, and I've been here for so long. I serve as the lead instructor for the accounting and public accounting majors. And within the department, I teach accounting, I teach international business, and I teach business ethics.
All right, awesome. Troy, you're next up on my little boxes, as Professor Johnson said. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Melissa. So I graduated from Marietta College in 1991. Actually, I think I entered the accounting program as Professor Johnson had just started at Marietta College. So, but I grew up in Payton City, an hour north of the college, and went the route of public accounting out of Marietta College via the great Tim Cooper, who's the alumni there, and was with Arthur Anderson there for a few years in Columbus, Ohio, before jumping over into the private industry with Union Carbide. Became OSI Specialties, became Momentive right up the road in Friendly, West Virginia, and then took a leap and moved to Rhode Island and went to a company called United Waste Systems. And there I met a person who was the founder, entrepreneur, that I remained with for 3 companies after that, and was fortunate enough to be part of the founding groups of United Rentals, one of the acquisitions we did in Marietta, Ohio. I was very pushing for that, very, very big. As well, a person from Marietta was running the branch there, still is today, Tracy Ayers, and was there for 11 years, and then was part of the group that started XPO Logistics, and we started that. I moved through the years in the finance roles, different vice president of finance, and then jumped to operations, made that leap that you have to make a choice at some point in your career if you're going to stick to that CFO route. And I made a choice to jump over to the dark side, as they call it, to the operations, and became chief operating officer a few years back. And then we made a large acquisition in Europe. So I was CEO of Europe for a couple of years before coming back as president of XPO Logistics. And we successfully spun off a large portion of the business, our supply chain part of the operations, a few months ago. And that was a good breaking point for me, being there for 10 years, that I've just transitioned away from XPO, looking for the next chapter in my career. So looking forward to the discussion. Accounting's been a big part of and it still remained, even in operations. I always went to the numbers in anything I was doing in operations. So it was a big part. Marietta was a big part in my career and my success.
I was going to say, Troy, it's always good when you have the operations folks who have the accounting and finance background, because then you can talk to them and it makes more sense, because you can provide the facts of the details and the numbers. So great allies, as I like to consider those who jump.
That's right.
Ashley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. I'm Ashley Kloppenstein. I graduated in 2020. And while at Marietta, I studied public accounting and finance, and then I minored in leadership. I was involved in a bunch of stuff on campus. I was an alumni ambassador, so got to meet a lot of alumni through that role. I also was involved in student government and a couple of different organizations on campus. Originally, I'm from Cicero, Indiana, but I'm living in Chicago now. I work for Plant Moran as a tax staff in the National Tax Office. And so I started that right out of Marietta, and so just hit my 1-year anniversary. So yeah, that is what I'm doing now and working out of the Chicago office.
Awesome, thank you. And then Ethan, to round it out, our current student.
I grew up in Churchtown, Ohio. I now live in Beverly. I'm a sophomore. I'm a public accounting and finance major. I have a part-time job at a small accounting firm in Beverly, and I'm concentrated on tax.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I think we had some great insights and kind of our stories and journeys. And so definitely want to jump in a little bit more around the accounting department. So I think we can level and just say, what's it like today? So Professor Johnson, want to give us an overview of like, have any accounting majors changed? There might be those that don't know what the public accounting is versus the normal accounting major, and just what kind of the popular courses and what you're seeing.
Sure. Accounting hasn't changed much over 33 years that I have been here. We're still teaching debits and credits, you'll be glad to know. But I would say some of the most meaningful and dramatic changes really are coming not in the content itself, but what we're doing with the content. As I think all of you can imagine, over the last couple of years, the area of data analytics has become increasingly important to business, healthcare, whatever your line of work is. We really need to go down through data and be able to look for patterns and observe relationships and maybe make predictions. So we have in the last couple of years begun to integrate data analytics assignments into existing courses. We do have a standalone data analytics course, and my accounting colleague who's on the call with us, Dr. James Karen, we are hopefully going to be putting through a proposal to include as a requirement that data analytics course for the accounting and the public accounting majors. The other thing that might be new, as requirements from states evolve about what people need educationally to sit for the CPA exam and become certified as CPAs, we did a little bit of a retooling of particularly the public accounting major, and we now have a second course in advanced taxation. And so we have 2 tax courses rather than 1. As I said, there's really not a whole lot of change in the makeup of the courses, but it's mainly on this integration of data analytics and also how we integrate communication, whether we're talking verbal communication or written communication. More of these types of exercises and activities have been integrated into courses. And then certainly there's always an emphasis on strengthening the professionalism of the students. And we do it by events like this. We do it by continuing a many year tradition in the senior capstone of having seniors interact with CPAs in a discussion forum, the Friday Forum series. We integrate communication and professionalism with the accounting meet and greet series, which, by the way, the pandemic has just changed dramatically, because we'd normally invite a local CPA to come in, talk with the students face to face. Well, now my accounting meet and greet guests can literally be from anywhere in the world as long as they've got a Zoom connection. So those are just some of the ways that things have changed over a couple of decades.
No, that's a great overview. And I was going to ask how COVID impacted, because I know for those of us in the business, we've had to quickly check and adjust on how we communicate. And it's very, very different now in a Zoom or Teams world. And so it's good to hear that you're working on that. And I'm sure it's also evolved in just how, classes being potentially remote at certain points and in person, and all of that's just going to help the students as they progress forward.
If I may, just as one additional example, thank you for mentioning that, Melissa. In our Accounting Information Systems course, which has been around since 1995, we are now, through the benefit of the changes brought on by the pandemic, we're able to do our internal control consulting project for a company that's not just within walking distance of the college. And we're working, thanks to Melissa, with the Wendy's company. And the students in the course are investigating 4 problematic areas with internal control, and they're going to be making recommendations. Melissa will be popping in a couple of times on Zoom throughout the semester. The students will deliver their final recommendations to the Wendy's company via Zoom. So thanks for reminding me about that.
Yeah, sure. And shameless plug, any of you alums out there who want to do something similar, you now don't have to worry about trying to travel to a campus and extra time. The technology definitely helps with that. So, okay, plug done. Ethan, as a current student, what is your maybe, favorite class, or what's the workload? Just share some insights from the student side.
So this semester I have 15 credit hours. I think my favorite class is Tax 1, just because I can relate it directly to my work at that small accounting firm. And then I have classes like finance, marketing, and management, which I think those are going to help me develop my skills, not just as an accounting background, but get more insight to other areas of business. And I really like about the whole accounting program, Marietta, is how many internships are available, and how many people reach out to Professor Johnson, Professor Karen, and then they pretty much give us all the details about all the jobs available, where everybody has a chance to have an internship.
Yeah, for sure. Internships are so, I don't want to say necessary, but almost necessary, right? Because it gives you that hands-on experience and really can help you understand. One of the things I love about accounting is it's so broad. You can do tax, you can do audit, you can do internal audit. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you actually get out and into an internship and you're like, you know what, maybe I don't like that as much as I thought. Let's, shift and try something else. So shifting gears a little bit, kind of talking to our alums now. So Troy and Ashley, maybe Troy, I'll start with you, right? So thinking about kind of your experience when you were a student in the accounting program, what did you find most beneficial, whether it was certain classes, maybe it was an internship that stuck out, a professor that mentored you, coached you, just kind of, give a highlight of your experience on campus.
Well, I think, first of all, I think the liberal arts and the communication portion added on to the curriculum helped me immensely through my career. I think that brought out what really separates someone that's coming out in the stereotypical accountant, where it's more seen, not heard, more of how do you partner, how do you form a rapport with the people in the field, depending on which path you may take, and that's in public accounting and or when you go into private industry. So that layered on to, and it mainly for me, it was probably more of the management aspects of it. So more of the financial planning, those type of classes, even though I was a CPA and was in public accounting to start out the career, those were probably the most beneficial. And I also had a lot of classes to complement that. I was in a lot of informational system class. I started off in computer science before I jumped over into accounting. So I stuck with a lot of information system classes, obviously economics, everything that comes into play to broaden that scope that you might have down the road is very beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. And especially in this day and age, as Professor Johnson already mentioned, if we think about technology and just everything's so intertwined now, you almost have to have at least a rudimentary level of understanding about either analytics or, IT systems, et cetera. So definitely having that kind of exposure and opportunity is always good. Ashley, why don't you give us some of your insights into what you enjoyed about being at Marietta?
Yeah, I think kind of similar to Ethan, I think one of my favorite things was the availability of internships, and I guess all different projects that we had, kind of getting to try out accounting, see what we liked, what we didn't. My course load, I don't think, I might have taken 18 credits once or twice, but I stayed right around that 15 mark. And so I felt like I had, plenty of time to get involved in additional things the business department was offering, or I did 2 internships during this semester in addition to ones over the summer. So I felt like getting to do those kind of showed me, what I was interested in and, different environments that I wanted to work in. I worked for, a public corporation one summer, and so a pretty big company. And then I also worked for a really small tax service provider where my parents were living. And so I got to see, a variety of different work environments and kind of see what I was interested in and what I thought would be the best for me. And then getting to work on the different types of work, seeing my first internship was in tax, and I did a couple of those and figured that I really enjoyed that. And then getting to supplement that with, like in Professor Karen's classes, the tax research projects we did, or the tax return assignments we had, getting to kind of see the different areas that we could go into with accounting. And I think that really helped kind of reassure me coming out of the program that, I was interested in accounting, and I knew kind of what I was interested in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think we've got some great discussion on kind of the current program, the great, foundation that a lot of us had to project us into our careers. But obviously we, always have to think about the future. So I think this is going to be, opened up to anyone for thoughts. Ethan, it might be a little bit harder as you're in the middle of it. But what do you think we should be thinking for the program and focusing on going forward?
I can start. I think I'll build upon what Professor Johnson had spoke about data analytics. So I had in my many roles IT reporting to me. So we had the data science group inside of our IT group. The CIO, who's still at XPO Logistics, graduated from MIT and had that background. So we really looking at in a lot of data in obviously transportation and logistics, especially in today's world. So we're stressing that. And putting a lot of investment behind that, not only IT, but the investment behind the data, and then whatever propels that. So hearing about the couple programs coming on board, and it's not just spotting the trends and looking at that, it's then taking it to the next step. That's where you really separate yourself from a financial background, is what insights do you give from that data? So you can report on the data, you can maybe spot some trends an operator can take, but what else can you add? What value can you add to that? So anything that assists or helps that in that type of background, not a straight, this wouldn't be on a tax background or specific to accounting, but anything that can assist, that's how the world is moving. And you can definitely see someone that has an accounting background that's moved over into FP&A versus someone that's come out with a straight data analytics background. I still think I give the upside, because I'm biased, obviously, with accounting background, that if you have that accounting core, you understand those debits and credits and how things work to get to the report card, which is the P&L. And but I think as you build your experience and have more of that to come to fruition, and can go back to, okay, what can I see in the data and how can I look at this? That's always something that's been, I would say, a good resource for me. But I was able to really look at numbers and see trends inside numbers very quickly. So anything can assist with that, I think, gives people a person a leg up in their career.
Yeah, great point, Trey. One of the things I like to tell my team of auditors is it's like, you need to have the business mindset to translate it for your stakeholders. When we're doing an operational audit for the business, or even sometimes if we're running analytics for, SOX controls, how do we translate it? Because a lot of times your pure IT folks, they'll just spit you the data and don't know what it means. And how do you then translate that to make it important to say, like, this is why we need to do X, Y, and Z. This is what the data is telling us. And so having that ability is key.
Yeah. And I think the other piece was around information technology, is what is that bridge, or what classes can be done around ERP systems, because everything is so connected. So like you were saying, from a SOX perspective, when you look at the SOX report, a lot of things are IT related, more or less. The controls, everything, deficiencies are more leans IT controls than anything else. So that I complement of system background or maybe even beginning backgrounds that have to be in someone's curriculum to help them understand those processes are going to come into play, and it'll just keep it'll keep accelerating through the years.
Yep. Great point. Other thoughts from any of the other panelists?
One of the things I hope we will continue to do in the future, maybe not make a change, but in the years I've been here, we've always had a philosophy of preparing the majors to be generalists. I have had phone calls from people who say, well, why aren't you teaching this software package? Or why aren't you preparing your graduates to go work for entity X? And my response is that we prepare the generalist. We want to prepare, for example, Ethan, who may stay local and may, after graduation, work for the small accounting firm out in the county. But at the same time, we want to prepare Troy, who went to Arthur Andersen, right? At that time, a Big Six or whatever it was firm. We want to prepare Melissa, who is going off to a Fortune 250 company. And we want to prepare Megan, who's going to be going off to some international posting. We don't want to favor one software package, one set of accounting practice, one subdiscipline of accounting, or one particular size of company or industry. And I hope that's something we will keep as a philosophy in our major in the future, is not to create a very narrow, specialized kind of a graduate who only is employable for government service, for example.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's one of the benefits of, the Marietta College degree, right? And it's so hard if you get so specialized, like it changes, like, okay, we're going to be Oracle today, and that's the system we're going to teach. And like, well, something happens, major scandal, and they go bankrupt. And now it's like, oh, well, guess what? Now all these classes, we have to shift gears and go over to SAP. And any of that kind of specialized, it's so difficult because it works in half the companies, but not the others. And so how do you make sure you give a little bit of everything so that you can learn the specifics when you get out into the environment? And I mean, it changes anyway. So, I mean, whatever industry, public versus private versus governmental, international, domestic, whatever it is, right? You have to have enough to then launch you into, getting into the details. So I think that's a great point. Right. So I think we can, shift gears a little bit. And just as a reminder, if anyone who is listening wants to ask a question, feel free to write it in the chat. And we are monitoring that. So feel free, if there's anything that spurs your mind as we're discussing, don't hold back. But now kind of shifting a little bit to think more like of our careers, so we've talked about kind of the education at Marietta College. So we'll start, with Ethan, talk about what's your career plan? What would you like to do? Where do you want to go? And then we'll take it from there.
Well, I'm still a sophomore, so I'm still pretty new at all this, but as of right now, I want to stay in the area. I think where I'm working at now, I really like. So if I could stay in the area, that'd be my top choice. But there's new environments. Your environments change every day. New opportunities arouse. Sometimes you just got to do things, go out and see the world. So I'm still kind of open to what I'm doing in the future.
Totally fair. And I remember as a sophomore, like you haven't even gotten into the specifics of like audit versus tax or anything. So it's really hard to even know where you want to specialize. And if you're like me, I skipped over both and I went to internal audit and we didn't even have a class on that. So maybe we can fit that in as a future recommendation. So I did have one question from Megan and Professor Johnson. This might be towards you. How many students are choosing accounting as a major these days? And is it available as a minor?
We presently have 24 majors. That's both in the public accounting, the 150-hour program, and accounting, the 120-hour program. Surprisingly, the numbers of students majoring in accounting has fallen in recent years. There are all kinds of opportunities in accounting, but interest in the major has fallen. And we're not exactly sure why. Maybe finance offers a more sexy, exciting alternative. Maybe students are thinking more in line of business generalities, maybe majoring in management, for example. But we have seen a decline in the number of majors. Megan's second question was whether we have a minor, and yes, there has been a minor in accounting for 30, at least again, since I've been here, 33 years.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, and hard to say, right? I mean, unless you know for a fact, like, wow, our finance major spiked, so maybe some of the accounting have moved over. You just never know, right?
Exactly. One of the things, if I can follow up with Megan's question, is each year in February, we hold a general information session open to all Marietta College freshmen, why you should choose accounting as a major. And we'll be doing that later in February. But it's also the purpose of the accounting meet and greet, is to let people know what their career options are. They hear from alums, but also people who did not graduate from Marietta College, who work in a variety of accounting areas. And we try to vary them. Again, Zoom has given us opportunities. Next month, we've got somebody coming in from Cleveland online, somebody from Chicago. So we can reach out to alums and friends in accounting in a variety of work environments and a variety of roles. So that too, we hope helps recruit students who are undecided to perhaps choose accounting or public accounting as a major.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think to your point, I mean, I wonder if there's even a way that we can create a list of like alumni to say, where have you gone with an accounting major? Because I think there's so many opportunities. And as Troy mentioned, you can switch over to the dark side into operations or internal audit, which, isn't even very much highlighted. Sometimes you can get over into the finance side with an accounting major, but you offer a different perspective. And so there's so many doors that are open that I think sometimes students don't even know. And you get I know it's the bad rap, right? Like the pocket protector, crunching numbers in the bag, debits, credits, that's all you do. When it's so much more. And so how do you share those stories to say, like, get the perception out of your head? Here's the reality, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's the years. There's a lot, of, I'm going to say, impatience out there of wanting to jump right to a certain role or a certain position and not put the time in. But I think that's part of the accounting discipline, accounting background, whether you go the public accounting route or go into private directly and work as a staff accountant and work your way through, the plumbing of the company, the financials, and then branch out from there. And some people don't like that path or don't feel like, oh, that's too long of a path. I would rather just jump right into FP&A or do something like that, or jump into one of these analyst positions. But I would have to say over the last year since the pandemic started, I see the resources, and maybe this is reflective of what Professor Johnson is saying, is that there's more and more roles coming up in accounting, even for XPO and GXO, which was the spin that we had. And it almost to the extent, not quite as an IT resources of trying to find IT, the accounting is rising up, and you see that. My son-in-law is actually in an FP&A role with TIAA Craft here in Charlotte, and went through a Bank of America rotational program. So he took sort of that more. He went to UNC Charlotte here, and sort of that management background, and went that route, and he's in FP&A now. So that's, I think, the competing force, as you would say, of a route that you could still take, and more companies are opening up that route to try to just grab more and more people. Like back in the day when you had a lot of the consulting companies just taking varied backgrounds, whether you were an English lit major, you could go to Anderson Consulting at the time or any of the big consulting groups, and then they would try to shape you from there after you did a lot of programming when you first started. But that's part of probably what's got to evolve in the curriculum and the background, and then again showing. What everyone wants to see is what we call proof of concept. You want to see real life examples, right? That's the best show you can do to say, here's a path. But you never know where it's going to lead you. I didn't know that I would be in the position or in the positions and see, in Europe for 2 years, running a French-based company for someone that grew up in a little small town of 2,000 people in West Virginia. I didn't think I'd ever have that kind of opportunity, but that's where God and life led me. So, but I think, again, it points back to the generalist, the liberal arts background, the overall curriculum that helps and shapes you, that you're able to encounter this and adapt to whatever that situation may be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Insights, and it actually ties right into a question that Paul had raised, about the generalist, and wanted to know a little bit more, from kind of the alums here on, how did the extra courses outside of just the accounting management supplement what we were doing in our career trajectory, whether it was we took English or history or science or whatever else kind of in that liberal arts education. How did that help us in our career journey? And Troy, I think you touched on it a little bit, right? And I can chime in a bit too. If I think about even just interacting with people, I remember taking a psychology class, and just that, how people interact. Leadership is another great, program that Marietta has that other colleges don't. And there's a lot about, managing versus leading, and you can be a great manager, but not a good leader, and vice versa. And
Right.
what you want to be. And when you
Right.
think about getting up to the higher levels in an organization and trying to create strategy and vision and get people to follow you, like that's a leader, and how do you adapt? And so I think a lot of that kind of just, again, it was more of that liberal arts where it's a lot of reading books and discussing and dialogue that's so different than I'm doing debits and credits, or I'm doing a tax return, that really helps shape the softer skills to be able to launch you then as you progress. So I'll throw that out there. And then Ashley, I don't know, if you want to provide some insights on what you were thinking and seeing from that liberal arts education.
Yeah, I think one of the components that I felt like I really appreciated about from the liberal arts experience was, having to take all the other classes, and kind of the emphasis I felt like a lot of the classes had on writing and getting that experience. I know Professor Johnson says, we're not just number crunchers and accounting isn't all about math, but that's definitely kind of what drew me in. I'm a math person, not really a big writing fan. So I think, having to take those writing intensive courses and having to write about my liberal arts classes, whether it's literature or history, stuff like that, may help make me a lot more confident in my writing, and I guess more efficient at it. I know, like during high school, a 1-page paper I would stew over and take a long time to write, but being at Marietta, a lot of my classes were pretty writing intensive, so kind of getting more used to that process and how long it takes to kind of flesh out your thoughts and have a coherent paper, I think it's definitely helped me feel more confident, more efficient as I have to do more writing now that I've started my career as well.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure we
Melissa?
could all comment on the freshman speech class and the terror that we had to do. But at the same time, I mean, let's be honest, it all prepared us as we now are speaking on a panel here, or in other aspects of our jobs. So there's always those scary classes that were required, but looking back, they did a lot.
And Melissa, if I can jump in, and Ashley, please correct me if I misspeak. There was a period of about 2 or 3, 4 years in a row, some years ago, when many of our public accounting majors graduated Phi Beta Kappa. Ashley, you're Phi Beta Kappa? Yeah.
Yep.
And so the 150-hour program, by the time you take care of your requirements for public accounting, your general education, you still had many hours to fill to reach 150. And some of our high achievers and wonderful students who appreciated the liberal arts, looked at courses in the B category or that A category or the science category in order to earn and be chosen for the nation's most prestigious liberal arts honorary Phi Beta Kappa. And that's possible with that public accounting program.
Fantastic point. And I was also Phi Beta Kappa. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa.
no,
I'm sorry,
I was
didn't
more than
remember.
4 years ago, so it's completely fine. I don't blame you, but I could just say like another proof point. Robert, I think I see your hand up. If you would like to ask a question.
I want to make some comments, maybe some big picture as well as some other comments. I was not Phi Beta Kappa, but I was Alpha Tau Omega. And thanks a whole lot for the 50-year point. You saw my class of 74 there on my name. So I didn't realize that Professor Ed Osborne and I and about 12 other people were perhaps in the initial group of accounting majors, but he was our accounting department in those days. I'm really pleased about this meeting. Thank you very much. As an alum, I mean, you received the literature. My wife and I are both Marietta alums and have stayed in very close touch with the institution over the decades and are big supporters. But to drill down to the department level, this has been just great. Thank you for doing this. And, you know, Dr. Johnson, and Troy especially, thanks for bringing up this really important strategic positioning and strength of Marietta College that continues. And that's the opportunity to, well, what brought me to Marietta from Baltimore, which was a smaller institution in a beautiful place, non-sectarian co-ed situation. And over the years, it's still there, and we're just so proud of that. But the strategic point about the generalist, I've heard a lot of corporate talk and a lot of CPA talk. I came to the accounting department through, I wanted to be a doctor. And Marietta, with its strength in those days, had a brand new biology and physics and chemistry building. But I moved from there, from the kind of the sciences into business and then into accounting, and ended up as an accounting and a business major. The generalist piece really served me well. I didn't go CPA route or corporate. I went corporate for a while, but ended up in not-for-profit accounting, which is a whole nother world of well, public service as well as business and accounting, and ended up at the University of Kentucky to get my MBA in higher ed finance and admin, and all those strengths of business law and auditing. Of course, all the accounting and tax courses brought me to that MBA, and then a 30-year career in higher ed finance and administration at colleges and universities, and all that generalist, but yet business sense and accounting sense background from that Marietta strength helped make such a successful career that ended in 10 years really as a executive director and developer of a not-for-profit community service organization. So you talk about a variety of opportunities and a variety of roles that Marietta opened that door. And I'm glad I wasn't a doctor. I'm glad I did other stuff. So thanks again for doing this today.
Well, thank you, Robert, one, for sharing your incredible journey and experiences, and going back to that other point of you just don't know where your path's going to go, and the accounting majors open so many different doors. And also thank you for your support as an MCAA member. We always appreciate our alum, participating, and then also, helping, with just staying connected. So thank you with that.
Melissa, can I jump in and thank Mr. Goldsmith for something? Great. He's given me too much credit. I do not have an earned PhD, so I am not Dr. Johnson, but merely Professor Johnson. What we do, we are caretakers. We are stewards. Of what? Sorry. We are stewards of Jack Prince and Bert Glaze and Ed Osborne and Fraser McAfee and what they created.
Dr. Wenyu Cheng as well.
Frank Cheng as well. We are the caretakers and the stewards of what they did. And we just need to honor their contributions and how they established such high standards and such success. And all of you alums are proof of that. So, thank you for coming to Marietta. Thank you for mentioning Ed Osborne. I always get very emotional when I think about those men, those towering giants of our department. We miss them. Some of them are still here, some of them are not, but my goodness, we miss them. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. I think about Richard Smith as well, Dick Smith, who,
Yes.
illustrative of Marietta.
Mhm.
Right about this time of year, my wife and I had a snowball fight with him and several other faculty members out in between Thomas and whatever, the tower. And just an insight about, the closeness as well as the respect that faculty and students had for each other. So thanks again.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's just testimony, across all of Marietta, but I do think in the accounting group, some of those are legends. I mean, they were around for a while. Professor Osborne was my academic advisor, and McAfee, and just knowing what they've done, and then as they continued, and just the passion. And you don't get that at your larger universities. You don't get that interaction. You don't get that personal attention and relationships that carries on. I mean, when I go back to campus, I still stay in touch with, faculty, even if they're retired, like Professor Osborne, and how do you stay connected and interact with them? I don't think you get that at your larger school. So that's a huge benefit, again, that Marietta provides. So I guess kind of one thing, Professor Johnson, that, you mentioned one of the ways that, alum can get involved, but I think there's many of us who have a strong love and passion for Marietta and what it's done for us in our careers. So how can we give back if we're looking for ways to say, I would love to get involved and, pay it back, right? Not pay it forward at this point, because we've already made it. But how can we pay it back to those students who are just starting out? Can we provide, internships? I know it was already mentioned, like obviously reach out, but other opportunities, either to speak to students, provide our career paths and, opportunities of what that looks like that they might not be thinking about, just anything. Like, I think there's a lot of us that would love to be involved.
Right.
And just what can we do that we might not know that we can do?
Exactly. I mean, serving as the client for various consulting projects or evaluation projects for class, serving as meet and greet guests. Again, the virtual world, we can connect with someone over working in Ireland and have them talk. Certainly serving as mentors in an unofficial, informal kind of way when a student wishes to connect with you on LinkedIn to get some career advice. Those are just a couple of very small ways that will make a big difference to our students.
Perfect. And I think Andrew Smith is here from Career Services, so maybe he can put in the chat even his email. So for those of us who are saying thank you, I see some people, providing your LinkedIn information, and then also if you have internship opportunities, Wendy's, variety at any point in time have accounting or finance, openings. But I do think that the more we can kind of stay connected and provide that, it's kind of a small pride when you can see someone else from Marietta in your organization to be like, yeah, another fellow alum, because there's so many Ohio States or OUs or whatever if you're in Ohio, right? And so it's nice to see the Marietta College camaraderie. Stephanie, I see your hand up. Would you like to jump in?
Yep. Hey, everybody. Stephanie College, also an alum. Currently actually sitting on the Marietta College Board of Trustees. I came from the MCAA world as well, so I'm happy to see a program like this been running from an alumni perspective that speaks to the caliber of talent we have as an alumni base and how willing people stay involved. So thank you very much. But to that point about how to give back, and I know as a trustee, it's something we talk about extensively of how to reach, whether it's current students, prospective students, or the alums or the faculty and staff. It doesn't have to be large. And I know the cliche phrase, but we use it all over campus: time, talent, treasure. Giving back can come in any form, whether it's tossing a few dollars towards the accounting department or the finance department or the P&E department to help them facilitate opportunities for students on campus, whether it's participating in a Zoom meeting, offering up your contact information for students or faculty to reach out, just being open and available and letting people know where life is taking you. I have had a I feel rather diverse career. I've moved around the state. Marietta College, it has taken me places I never really had expected. Background has served me well, and I'm proud to say that I give back for exactly those reasons, to be able to continue to speak proudly from what I'm doing now and how I got here. And I would not have gotten to where I'm at without being at Marietta College, which, funny enough, was kind of the joke back then. I didn't see myself going to school in Ohio at all. It was like my parents forced me to apply to a school in the state. And I said, this one looks great. And I went and visited it, and I fell in love with the campus, and I ended up going there. And then my brother kicked and screamed, said, I don't want to go there. I'm not following my sister. He also came. I'm a product of a Marietta merger as well. So is my brother. So are my son's godparents. So it's a well-knit community. We help each other. We foster every success, and win is all of our wins. So I just, I applaud everybody for just participating in this type of it's the little things, whether a current student like Ethan can see people on this screen, and Ethan, take advantage of all these emails that you have access to now, so you can ping any of us at any time and ask us a question, whether it's a recent grad like Ashley, who I've had the pleasure of meeting in person. Everything else, you're not afraid to reach out and ask somebody how we can help you. And I'd like to say that we as alums are also not afraid to reach out and ask how we can give back. So let's just keep up fighting the good fight, because we're doing a very good job.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. I think that was great words of wisdom there, and agree. We're doing a lot. We're movers and shakers all over the place. And how do we continue to keep that legacy going? Any other questions? I think this has been fantastic. Thank you for those who have spoken up, whether with comments or questions. It's been very interactive. I love it. Anything else?
I think, Melissa, just to chime in, for the existing students, Greg, I've had a couple people under the supply chain new curriculum reach out to me on LinkedIn and saying, hey, we're doing internships, just to start that. I think the students shouldn't be afraid of doing that. I think, especially in LinkedIn, you can go in and see Marietta College and have that link within LinkedIn of Marietta College, and don't be bashful. Reach out, ping those people. I would assume most of the people that have graduated from Marietta College will respond or actually chime in for question. A lot of people busy. Sometimes it was hard for me to get on LinkedIn for a period of time because I had so many emails on my existing work. And in between the travel, it's hard to do that. But there's a lot of people, if you persist, I don't see, it'll be the exception that would not respond back or not give that tutelage back to the existing students or early career, especially when you have these questions or you have a crossroads of, hey, what do I do next? I've worked here for 2 or 3 years. I'm looking. I'm not sure where to go from here. And I can consult my professors and go back to the college, but also it's good to see sometimes from that corporate private, standpoint of where this could lead you. And, do you want to go there? I'll never forget that. I'll give a Tim Cooper thing that we were riding in a car going to a client up in New Albany. I remember I was in automotive, so it was all Japanese clients. And I remember riding with him in the car, and it was just me and him. And he's over there, grabs me on the shoulder and says, this is what this job turns into be. It's all sales. It's all sales. It's all sales. That's all you're going to do. I'm like, I'm not sure if I really want to go into sales. It was one of those, light bulb pops up, whether he knew it or not at the time. he's giving that. But I know, and I can think back to other people that I've spoken to, a couple of these super IQ, and I would give a lot of town halls and do a lot of that when I go to facilities. I'd love to meet people and do town halls and just open up questions. It was never prompted. It was never some PowerPoint. It was always what you got on your mind. And I can stand here as long as you can stand here, waiting for questions to come back to me. And you just never know what's going to ring in your head or what's going to perk your interest at that point in your life. And you only have a few opportunities. I always went back, someone told me this, you have a few opportunities and the door will crack open. Are you going to put your foot in the door, or are you going to let the door slam shut? And you usually only have those moments 2 or 3 times in your lifetime. Some people are fortunate to have a lot of them, but usually 2 or 3 times, and that'll shape your life. And I think it still goes back to that. If you have a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of, I think of the art history classes I was taking, the stats classes, the logistics, or the logic classes. I always remember the logic one, because me and my wife, who, by the way, we're 34th anniversary yesterday. So, we went to school together there. She has her associates from Marietta, but, just having all of that different going through, and it becomes more just like public accounting. It's more about the process than it is the actual 2 weeks you're at a client or 3 weeks you're at a client. It's about what's evolving up in your head. And that's what I think it has to come back to in any of these curriculums. How are you shaping people to then be able to adapt, to adjust to whatever life throws at them down the road? So.
Great closing commentary there, Troy. I was going to say like final words, and so you already did it.
That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, mic drop, you're done. I love the comment about the door opening, right? Because I do think sometimes you have the perception like, oh, the door's going to open, it's going to be wide open, you're going to know it's your door, and that's not in real life. And it does take that, like, it's cracked and you better act quickly. And you're scared to death about what decision. Do you do it and regret it? Do you not do it and regret it? And, how do you make that choice and just be able to have that network to be able to bounce ideas and say like, well, you might have done this similarly, whatever role it is, like, let's talk about it. Is this right for me or not? And just how do we, continually to just trust our instincts, our networks, and our education to get us to whatever life and the path goes for us. So I know we only have a couple minutes left, but again, I'll just say thank you. Oh, yes, Stanley.
I don't like to play one-upsmanship, but Faye and I are coming up on our 62nd, 62 anniversary.
Oh, congrats.
Congratulations.
The steps in the front of, she says she's standing here saying not there yet. Well, it's only 3 months away. And for us, the steps on the front of Fairweather Hall are sacred, because we met there when we were 2 18-year-olds that didn't know A from B. But that's past history. But she's an example of what we talk about. I brag about Marietta being a liberal arts college, and it's major. Yeah, you major in something, but that doesn't mean that's where you're going the rest of your life. So she majored in English, minored in French, had certification to teach secondary English and French. So I was a year behind her, even though we're the same age, but I always told the kids she was older because she graduated a year before me. But the point is that her first year we got married, we were living on Knox Street in a little apartment down by the river. So I could walk to school. She took the car to teach 8th and 9th grade French and English in a middle school in Parkersburg. And from there, and that's what she was taught. That's what her major was. That's what her paperwork said. From there, I went to law school in Virginia. They needed a 5th grade teacher in the county, so she taught 5th grade. She wasn't certified to teach elementary, so she learned how to do it. And from there, when I started my law firm, she computerized it. She didn't know a computer from a carburetor. And our office was one of the first small law offices in New Jersey to be fully computerized. She was the bookkeeper, the office manager, and for many, many years, and she worked there till 53, 54 years, was the financial manager of the law firm. When she decided to go find out what is all this bookkeeping, what am I doing here reporting to the accountant, she went to the local junior community college, took courses in accounting, just so she knew what it was. And she would hang her A papers on the refrigerator as an incentive for the kids to do the same. Marietta College. And when our oldest was, who's now in another month or so, be 58 years old. But when we took her, came back for homecoming. She was maybe a year and a half old. And we met with Dean Wilcox, who had become a close friend because I was on the debate team or whatever, minored in speech. So this little kid is sitting on my lap and she proceeds to stick her tongue out at Dean Wilcox. I said, don't do that. You may need that lady to get you into Marietta someday. Anyway, no, I couldn't resist though when Troy was talking about not just a Marietta couple. We pride ourselves on that, but how it is a liberal arts college. And yes, you major in accounting. I majored in history. I minored in about 4 different subjects, all of which dealt with me talking too much. But the bottom line is that's what it's all about. I don't know that you can get a better education across the board. And you keep flip-flopping around to different things, take courses because you like them, and some because you have to, because you still have the 3 categories, right? The sciences and math and the English and that kind of stuff, and the other. So that's what you need in this world today.
Well, thank you so much for providing that perspective too. I know we're at time, so I'll just say thank you again to our panelists. You were amazing, great stories, opportunities. Thank you again for all who answered or asked questions, provided additional commentary. And just, please follow us, stay connected, just going to do a shameless plug, we're out on social media. If you're there, respond to emails, keep it updated with the advancement office so that you can stay up to date on all the happenings. And again, just, stay connected to the college and give back, whether that's financially, whether that's your time and talent. As Professor Johnson said, there's so many ways outside of just money that make impactful, changes to students' lives. And I think Ethan and some of the other students would probably agree with that. So again, thank you all. Stay connected and have a great rest of your day.